As we continue here on Sports Talk, it's time to welcome you back to our weekly baseball segment with Jaffe, who's going to talk baseball and beer with us on the program. Great to have you back, and I'll ask you right out of the gate, now that it's over and done with, I mean, we all think the Home Run Derby was clearly the highlight of All-Star Week in Denver. What's it going to take for the National League to win a game since it's now 8 straight by the AL?
Yeah, I don't know. It's strange. It's still hard for me to get used to, because when I was growing up, it was the NL was in the midst of like a 30-year run of dominance. The overall balance of games won is pretty even, but you've got basically three phases of the All-Star game, each of which there's one team dominant. The AL initially dominated, then the NL really dominated, especially thanks to quicker integration and all the black stars that were part of the National League, and that carried up through 1987. And since then, it's just been so imbalanced in favor of the AL. I think we've seen the talent on the American League side. Just in general, I think it's the league that has the bigger stars. Still, you'd expect in a situation like this, even under exhibition conditions, that there'd be more balance, but it just hasn't worked out that way.
No, it hasn't. And again, yesterday you had guys like Adam Frazier, Brian Reynolds in the starting lineup from the Pirates, 2 Pirates players. Then you also had Nick Castellanos and Jesse Winker, and those guys are all having great seasons. But some people will say, hey, if the NL's throwing 4 of their 9 starters from the Pirates and Reds, what's that going to tell you?
Yeah, I think that's true, and it goes back to who is the game for, and who are we trying to recognize? Are we trying to recognize the guy who had the best 3 months of his life? Are we trying to recognize the guy who's probably whose true talent level is a cut above the rest? Because that second guy doesn't always have the best first half of the season, but he's probably going to end up having the better season overall, less regression, just year in, year out. Those are the guys you want to see. It's fine to sprinkle in the occasional Adam Frazier or whatever, but if you wind up going too far in that direction, you end up with a very different looking squad. And let's face it, some of this is also owes to the fact that the guys who aren't there. I mean, Jacob deGrom ducking out. Not that one inning is going to make a difference, but if you've got Jacob deGrom starting and Max Scherzer coming in, maybe Corbin Burns doesn't throw 2 innings and get the snot knocked out of him. Just saying.
Does it bother you when players turn down the opportunity to play in the All-Star game?
I can't get too worked up about it. I mean, you'd like to see everybody embrace it equally, but I think there are very real things that go on. Nagging injuries, just the slog of the season, desire to spend time with family. It's a different calculation for each player. I think all I want to see is that everybody who's there embraces it and enjoys it. And I think for the most part, that really comes through. If it's a chore for somebody to go, screw it. I don't want them there. I mean, if it's, I don't really, I think it's just you party with who's there. And that should be enough to make it a marquee event. Same thing with the Home Run Derby. You're never going to get the full wish list of everybody you want, but you just got to enjoy what's there and hope that it turns into enough of an event.
Kind of like what happened on Monday, because all the great storylines were there. The epic, a homer off between Ohtani and Juan Soto. You had Trevor Story with a nice, a good showing, and then of course. Watching that Mancini, Peter Alonso final. I mean, I would say that Home Run Derby could go down as the greatest of all time and had a little bit of everything in it.
Yeah, I mean, we've been lucky to have some really good home run derbies in recent years. The one from 2018 with Bryce Harper winning was great. The 2019, the Vlad Jr. versus Pete Alonso, that was amazing too. But this was great. It's just Alonso wasn't the guy who got the attention, even though he was the defending champion and the only repeat participant. It was Ohtani, obviously, because he's everywhere right now, and then Joey Gallo, who I think we've all been waiting to see him participate in this event for a long time. going back to the shows he would put on in batting practice when he was a prospect, including at the Futures game. He didn't quite get it going. Still almost won his round. There was a little bit of talk about a conspiracy because both he and Trevor Story got off hits right at the buzzer, and Story's counted, and his didn't, and it would have tied it. I don't know. It's probably not worth worrying too much about, but he never got that 500-foot homer that we hoped for. But Alonso was just amazing. He was on another planet. The guy was so cool. Everybody else seemed to be, I think, maybe a little bit overwhelmed at some point. Especially, they all seemed to take about 30 seconds to get warmed up, costing themselves time off the clock. Alonso was just, going from the outset. And I think the underrated element for this is the quality of the pitchers. Dave Joust could just put it wherever wherever Alonso needed it every single time. And you look at, some of the other guys. I mean, even as good as Juan Soto did, Kevin Long was kind of all over the place. Shohei Ohtani's guy wasn't quite putting it where it needed to be. I think that makes a big difference, in terms of the outcomes.
You know what I would like to see? I would love to see Major League Baseball one off season start filming home run derbies like the old show from the early 60s. Right. And do it at Coors Field with nobody there. And all you get a chance to do is see two guys each week square off against each other with somebody emceeing it, and just marvel at how far those baseballs would go with nobody in the stands. And you could just pan to shots that are 450, 500 feet and just to enjoy a really nice program. Because I'm telling you, based on that air and that facility and these guys and what they did, I think a lot of these stars would love to do something like that during the offseason and reboot that home run derby show.
Yeah, the one flaw with that, unfortunately, Steve, is that the weather in November, December, January is probably not going to be optimal for home run hitting when it comes to Coors Field.
That's true. No doubt about that. And you're 100% right. We got to figure out a way to get around that. Jay, what do you think? How can we skirt those problems?
I don't know. Maybe we ought to do it and see if we can get a good ballpark going in Mexico City.
There you go.
Even higher altitude and warmer weather.
We've got one here in El Paso. We could let them hit balls right out of right out of Southwest University Park, and trust me, they'd be hitting balls into the street the way those guys could hit it. It'd be crazy.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
I like it. I like it a lot. Back right now with Jay Jaffe from Fangraphs.com. You can follow him also on Twitter at J_Jaffe. And don't forget to check out all of his beer picks at Untapped, our beer app that we talk about each week with some of Jay's selections. All right, so now that we have officially gotten through the All-Star break and the second half is getting ready to start, there's a lot of good storylines, including players that could get traded. You profiled one on Fangraphs today, Joey Gallo, and now that he is finished with the home run derby, everybody seems to think that was Major League Baseball has cracked down on the sticky stuff, that has perfectly coincided with the resurgence of Joey Gallo's season.
Yeah, it's funny. I looked at that. I didn't see a whole lot of evidence for that. I mean, yes, he does a little bit better against fastballs that have above average spin rates than below average spin rates, but it's not, he hasn't really had that many that are that far above average since this, if you want to date it to June 1st, since this crackdown. He's just getting hot. And, the selection of pitchers he's faced is, he's just wailing the tar out of him. I think it has more to do with the comfort level of his swing. He did a lot to rework his batting stance this winter. I showed it on the article. He's more upright. His feet are on a more perpendicular axis, to the plate, instead of having his front foot going down the first baseline. His bat is wrapped less. He's just in a better position to load, as he has said earlier. And I think that's really what's making the difference, less than the spin stuff. And it's not to say that the spin stuff isn't a factor, but he's really heated up. 13 home runs in his last 24 games. Only Shohei Ohtani has been hotter since June 1st. We have him with a 213 WRC plus, so 200, 113% better than the average major league hitter. So he's just been lighting it up, and it's fun to see because while he's always had the 40 homer power, he's got some holes in his game, and he's cut down his strikeouts, and he's not popping the ball up as much, and it's pretty impressive.
Where do you see him going? If there's going to be a landing spot, where do you think it is?
The Padres have been hot after him for over a year, but the asking price has been very high. And one of the guys that was part of that asking price is done for the year with a knee injury, CJ Abrams. I think he'd be a great fit for the Yankees. They have just an absolute dearth of left-handed power right now, and they haven't gotten anything good out of left field, center field, or first base. He could pitch in at all three of those spots. He's playing right field now. He actually won a Gold Glove last year based entirely on the advanced stats. But he played a credible center field, in 2019. I don't think he'd be a Gold Glove winner out there, but you look at the Yankees and they're really suffering without Aaron Hicks. I think that he would be a big boon to that team, not just this year, but also next year. The question is, he's said that he wants to stay in Texas, that he's willing to stay through the rebuilding, that he's not in this to wring every dollar out of it. The Rangers, they might look at him as a guy that they can build around, but I think if they're smart, they'll trade him and then re-sign him in a couple, in a year and a half, and if they really want him badly enough, and that's probably the most prudent thing to do.
I agree with that completely. Hey, by the way, I already heard that Shohei Ohtani wants a return trip to the Home Run Derby. And if you think about it, baseball really did a good job of marketing Shohei. He led off, he started, he was in the Derby. Fans loved it, and he was great with his teammates who also ate him up. I mean, it's just a good thing for baseball right now, Jay. And, we look at Shohei and his ability and how, so many people gravitate towards him. I love the fact that he doesn't want to just say, well, I've done this once and I'm finished with it. He wants to be a part of it. He realizes it's a game for the fans, and he wants to enjoy it as much as the fans do.
Yeah, time will tell if he can actually live up to that. I mean, I think you look at Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who was so great in 2019, and he didn't get to do the Derby this year because it's it does take a toll on the body, and especially at altitude at Coors Field. But we'll see. A lot of it probably depends on the perception of whether if he continues to play on both sides of the ball as he has done up to this point. I think we won't hear anything negative about his participation in the Derby. But if his offense starts regressing, or if his pitching starts regressing, somebody is going to start saying, "Oh yeah, it's because he did all that stuff. He did the Derby, et cetera, that messed him up." We've debunked the myth of the Home Run Derby messing with your swing over and over again. But the reality is the people who get there are the ones who are the most bound to regress anyway.
True.
So, I hope that Ohtani does participate in this again. I hope that next year we get Fernando Tatis Jr. And Vlad Guerrero Jr. And Mike Trout, and my wish list goes on and on. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton. Hope we get some of those guys.
And let's get Pete Alonso trying to be a three-time champ.
Three-peat.
That would be great.
Three-peat. I want to go for the three-peat.
So Pinky in Santa Teresa just sent us this on our mobile app. I still say, he says, that a lot of the credit of the home run champion should go to the pitcher. He was throwing it right in Alonso's wheelhouse. Oh, I, for one, remember seeing home run derby in the late 50s as a kid. Only chance we got to really see Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Harmon Killebrew, Frank Thomas, Frank Robinson, Mickey Mantle, and all those sluggers of that era. We would rush to the TV on Saturday, Sunday afternoons in the late winter, early spring, before spring training. So there is Pinky, who remembers it as a kid. That was filmed, by the way, in L.A. at the old Wrigley Field out in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I used to see that on ESPN Classic, which unfortunately my current carrier does not carry. So missing that content. It's been a while. I think you'd probably find them on YouTube, though.
I think so too. Hey, meanwhile, Rob Manfred decided no more 7-inning doubleheaders. Next year, we're also going to get rid of runner at second base to begin extra innings. He wants to get baseball back to their roots. Give me your thoughts on Manfred changing up some of those experimental rules from these last 2 seasons.
Well, he said that at the BBWA meeting, but these are both still matters for collective bargaining. I hope that this is what comes to pass. He can't, unfortunately, he can't unilaterally just dictate that. I hope that we get rid of both of those rules because I don't like either of them. They were fine under pandemic conditions last year. I think they're unnecessary this year. I hope that we see them go. But in the end, these two sides have bigger fish to fry when it comes to hammering out the collective bargaining agreement. Maybe if they can agree on this, then maybe it bodes well for the rest of the negotiations. But we're just getting started in this.
I agree with you. All right, let's wrap it up with what we do every week with you, Jay. Your beer pick of the week. What would you like to profile for our listeners today?
All right. Well, I had a date night, which meant that I got to go out for a drink and dinner with my wife on Saturday because my mother-in-law came in and took our daughter for a few hours, and we went down to Red Hook, to the other half tap room, and not only did we sample a few beers there, but I also got a bunch of cans. I ended up with I think 3 of the 4 that I bought were had Citra in the title. This one is Big Citra Vibes. And I'll be honest with you, if you put 2 of these beers next to each other, I probably couldn't tell them apart. But this is a very creamy New England IPA with your typical citrus notes, orange, lime, grapefruit, a little bit of bitterness in the pine. Other half has this down. They don't stay in one place. They're always giving you a new variant. The malts and the that are part of it as well, besides the hops. But they love their Citra, and so do I. And that's one of the things that keeps me coming back.
I like the fact that you take date night to a tap room. I think that's good. All the restaurants in New York City, but you got to realize the tap rooms have become the most trendy places in town these days.
Yeah, well, it's great to go to a tap room, especially when you can pick up some of their beer too. And we do not get to spend a lot of time in the tap rooms, having a small child and having a lot of writing to do and a lot of work to do at night. So, you got to take these chances where you can. There's a few other tap rooms that I'm eager to get to. I just found out that Evil Twin has one down in Dumbo, so we're going to hit that one up soon, I hope. And there's another one down in Red Hook that I'm looking to get to as well, that has a view of the water.
I'm happy you found a wife that likes beer as much as you do. It makes for a pretty fun date night, doesn't it?
Yeah, sure. It does.
Talk to you next week, Jay. Thanks for the time as always.
Okay. Sounds great, Steve. Thank you.